Well, many analysts are saying the GOP has a very good chance of winning control of the U.S. Senate tomorrow, as well as several state governments. But the X factor could be turnout among African American and Latino voters. Low turnout could complicate Democrats' hopes of maintaining control of the U.S. Senate and capturing Senate legislatures. For a look at several key races, we turn to Michael Blake. He is a former White House aide and National Deputy Director for Operation Vote in 2012, and he's here in our New York studio. Welcome to Rise America. It's good to meet you, Michael.
Great to meet you, Debbie.
I just read, literally moments ago, there is a new poll that the Wall Street Journal, NBC, put out that says that ahead of the balloting tomorrow, 46% of likely voters favor a Congress led by Republicans, where 45 prefer Democratic control. I wonder what your assessment is. Is it a foregone conclusion that the GOP is going to take the Senate?
Not at all. You know, when we look at elections, we talk about a lot of the noise, but we need to focus on the numbers. The reality is, for a likely voter, overwhelmingly, people of color, young people, those that don't traditionally vote in midterm elections, won't be included in those tallies. So if we're looking at a tied race, and you see typically, Democrats have a stronger get-out-the-vote operation, you probably actually have an advantage that's there. And this is about making sure you actually get out the vote in these places where they have tied races. So I think overwhelmingly, we're excited that Democrats are actually going to hold the Senate tomorrow night.
Yeah, a whole lot of money has been spent to that end. There are about 11 what have been called toss-up states that could go either way, or that was Democratic and could lean Republican, or vice versa. And so many of them, just in the last literally 24, 48 hours, a little bit of space has been put between them. Are there any of those toss-up states that you're now ready to call that are going to, flat out lean Republican or flat out lean Democrat?
I think everyone expects, Montana, South Dakota, West Virginia, they appear that the Republicans are going to win those seats. So now,
Kentucky too, you would add that in there, would
you?
Well,
Kentucky, it has been a race that has fluctuated in a lot of different ways. You had one poll that said that Mitch McConnell was up by 7, and you had another that showed it was only a 1-point race. So, there's a lot of flexibility that's happening right there. So when we break this down, we're looking at 7 states. Republicans need to win 3 of those 7 to take back the majority. The reality, though, is you look at the early vote numbers in these states, and they lean towards a Democratic advantage. In Iowa, about 392,000 people have already voted early. 41-39 Democratic advantage over Republican advantage. But 20% of that 41% didn't vote in 2010. When you look at North Carolina, the gap is larger for early voting for Democrats as opposed to Republicans from 4 years ago. We're seeing this in all of these respective states. So the reality is, if you're seeing better Democratic turnout in these states, if you see a stronger get-out-the-vote operation, and you're seeing in the midst of these collective numbers that Republicans have not been able to move ahead, it shows that people actually are resonating with the Democratic message right now.
I've been asking this question to a number of political pundits and analysts, and that is almost, what difference does it make? We have had political paralysis in the Beltway for these last 6 years. Yeah. And if the Republicans are able to take the Senate, then you would have 2 houses under the control of Republican. Anything that they're able to get passed is going to end up on Obama's desk, and he might very well not sign it or veto it. So does it make a huge difference in this election cycle?
Tremendous difference. When you look at on the national level, first of all, 2 words: Supreme Court. When you look at the opportunities that resonate right there, you want to have the opportunity to not be blocked when we see incredible opportunities and remarkable candidates that are going to be presented in that manner. Then when we look in terms of how we have tangible impact, it's almost ridiculous for someone to say that President Obama has not tried to be bipartisan. He had Republicans in his cabinet and has been engaging with the other side as well. But the reality is, if we see that on one side, the Republican Party has demonstrated willing to shut down the government, willing to talk about repealing Obamacare, despite multiple times we see we move forward, that is not a posture that will be successful. We can't forget that Mitch McConnell said that his #1 goal was for President Obama to be a 1-term president. So unless they're willing to be bipartisan in that manner, it does matter. And it also matters on the local level for those of us that are engaged in running in local races as well. We have tangible impact on everyday lives as well.
And let's just not forget that the day after the midterm elections, the presidential campaign heats up for that. I want to get to one more thing, and we're almost out of time, so let's be brief about this, and that is some gubernatorial races to keep our eyes on. Take us through a couple of them.
Have to look at Florida. Charlie Crist is going to win that race. And he's up by 3 points. Their operation on the ground seems incredibly stronger. Wisconsin, we can't ignore the fact, Scott Walker has had to run races 3 of the last 4 years. It looks like Mary Burke is actually going to pull that race out. Tom Wolf in Pennsylvania, will they be able to unseat an incumbent that's there? You have some critical gubernatorial races that obviously will have impact, as we saw in previous years. When you don't have a governor willing to work with the presidency, it's making it more difficult for what's happening on the ground. These elections have consequences. They have real impact. Your choice tangibly matters. It's important for people to vote up and down the ballot tomorrow night.
And we didn't even have time to get to the ballot initiative. So many things on the table. It's going to be a long night tomorrow night.
Yes,
Michael Blake, it's a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deb.
Appreciate it.